Cool. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Appreciate it. So, wanted to go over some down payment assistance programs with y'all today. There's several different ones that we have access to, and they range everywhere from the state of California, down to little cities in San Diego County. So let's jump into it. So there's three of them in particular that we usually deal with. There's the California Housing Authority, Housing Finance Authority. You guys probably know it as CalHFA. There's a Golden State Finance Authority, and that, you guys, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but that is called GSFA is the abbreviation for it. And then there's the San Diego Housing Commission, right? So the San Diego Housing Commission kind of is the local one, whereas the other two are state-run programs. The San Diego Housing Commission deals with not only the city of San Diego, but also the county of San Diego. And then within that umbrella, they also have cities like El Cajon, Chula Vista, some other incorporated areas of San Diego that have their own programs specifically for them. Not only that, so that's what we have access to, but there are also some programs out there, like the city of Poway has a program that someone brought to us one time, brought to our attention one time. We're not like participating lenders for them, but we could definitely help you do some research if need be. But most of the time we're able to help our clients with these three big programs that we all have access to. So that being said, let's dive into it. CalHFA is kind of the biggest one that we see on a regular basis. It's really intended for owner-occupied first-time home buyers. So you have to meet all these different criterias, and there are very small boxes that everybody kind of has to fit into in order to be eligible for these programs. So when somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm a first-time home buyer, tell me about the programs. I'm like, tell me about yourself. Like, I need to dive into people's background finances before I can tell them what program that they're qualifying for, right? Because take a look, right? When you're looking at this, for instance, you can see that, hey, I can get a conventional loan all the way down to a 640 credit score, but I can't qualify for this if I have greater than AMI, you guys, stands for area median income. Okay. If I have greater than lower than 680 credit score, I have to have greater than, sorry, I'm going backwards here. If my income is greater than 80%, which is considered low income, right? I have to have 680 or above. If I have low income, I can go all the way down to 660. So, I mean, that being said, look at the income limits, right? $230,000. That's a pretty huge income limit when you're taking a look at it. Riverside, $187,000. 253,000 in Orange County, 165,000 in Imperial, right? But when you're looking at the AMIs, if you're looking at 80%, it's not 80% of this. This is the limit that's going to disqualify you. The 80% of the AMI in San Diego is 95,600. I hate to break it to you, but 95,600 doesn't even buy you a $500,000 condo in San Diego. So it makes it really difficult to be able to get somebody to fit into one of these boxes and still be able to find properties for them. They're usually very small condominiums that someone can purchase with these programs. Any questions so far? Diving into, no? Okay, just stop me, you guys. Go ahead and just jump in and ask a question.
And also, don't worry, don't get too busy into the numbers. We'll do the numbers for you. This is just to kind of help you out. So
I want to show you guys. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Matt. I want to show you kind of an overview to all these programs. So they are available for conventional and government programs. And what does that mean? A conventional program versus a government, which is FHA, VA, USDA, right? So there are loan limits that we have to abide by, just like a regular loan, any kind of conventional and FHA loan. There are income limits that will disqualify you from these programs. There are ratios that we have to abide by. So if you have a greater than 700 credit score, you can go all the way up to 50% in your debt to income ratio, right? And if you're lower than that 700, we're limited to that 45%. And again, government, we can go all the way down to 640 versus conventional, we have to be at a 680. So again, these are not that easy programs to qualify for, right? Like I said, we could do conventional FHA, VA, USDA. You have to take occupancy, so you have to take possession of that property within 60 days, just like any other owner occupant home. There are no co-borrowers allowed on these properties, right? So you have to be able to qualify on your own, no co-signers or anything like that. And they are meant for single family homes, for ADUs. You can actually buy a house with an ADU on there. You can buy a condo, you can buy a manufactured home. And you are required to take first-time home buyers assistance. Now, there is a backup plan to these as well. So you can get all the way up to 3% in down payment assistance for the conventional and the government loans. Now, you can also file and apply for the My Home Assistance Program, which is an additional up to $10,000 that you can get above and beyond. So depending on up to $10,000, right? So depending on what your closing costs are. So obviously they can't exceed your closing costs. But this portion, the My Home Assistance, will cover your closing costs. The other down payment assistance program will cover your down payment. So if you're applying for, a conventional one, it's up to 3%. If you're doing a government one, up to 3.5%. But that way it will cover that initial down payment, because first-time home buyers can qualify for a 97% conventional loan, or FHA 96.5%. Okay. So they are the ones that are going to cover that down payment plus a little bit of the closing costs. So Dream for All program, I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about this. Thank God it's over. They haven't announced the winners or the people that have won the lottery system yet. I'm surprised because we are in June and they said they were going to be announcing them in May. None of my clients have received any kind of notification, and I haven't seen anybody speak about it on social media yet, so I'm assuming nobody else has either. But what they have done is, over the past couple of years, they have done basically, at this point, it's a lottery system, right? Where they will give you up to 20% of down payment assistance through the CalHFA program. And in return, you will be paying back up to 20% of appreciation of the home, plus the 20% in down payment. It's a substantial amount of money to be paying back. However, it also gets your foot in the door in real estate here in California, which is pretty awesome. It is now that they have changed it from the first time that they did it. It's now first generation home buyers, which means that your parents couldn't have owned a home for the past 7 years. Not only that, you obviously couldn't have owned any property as well. And or if you were ever at any time in the foster care system, you're automatically qualified. So there are certain caveats to be able to qualify for these programs, as far as your first generation buyers now. That didn't exist the first time. You are required, at least one person is required to take that home buyer education course. It is mandatory. It's virtual. You get online, takes like 45 minutes, no big deal. And then we do have very similar income limits. Again, in San Diego, $185,000. If you make more than that, you don't qualify. So I have had people that made, pretty close to that number applying for these loans, and they wanted to get the free money at the end of the day. And you consider it free, but you're giving up 20% of your appreciation. So when you look at the numbers, right, and you do the math, say you bought a $500,000 home and they gave you 20% in down payment assistance, right? That's a silent loan that's just sitting on the back end. So you're gonna wind up paying back this loan later on down the road. So your monthly payments are based off of $400,000. So you don't have any mortgage insurance, which is great. But now say the home appreciates in 5 years up to $640,000. It's $140,000 of appreciation. That means that you owe them not only that $100,000, but you also owe them that $28,000 as your portion of their appreciation, which is a huge chunk of change, right? 128 grand to pay back, but you got to keep the other 111 that it appreciated. So you get something better than nothing, right? Does all that make sense, you guys? So far, so good? Yeah. Okay, cool. Sorry, you guys, all the faces are over here. All right. So that's how the Dream for All program works. Now, mind you, if you're low income, again, under $93,440, then you're only required to pay back 15%. And you'll see that that number drops a little bit down to $21,000. Again, it's low income, under 80% AMI, 93,440 is the cutoff. But again, if you're not making $10,000 a month, you're not buying a $500,000 condo here. So we're talking like in the $400,000 or below range, which, as you guys know, because I see you guys all at Ashley Stats meetings, there are very few and far between of those condos available here in San Diego.
I have a question.
Yeah, fire away.
Okay, so does this also qualify when we're talking about manufactured homes?
It does.
Okay, cool. Because
Yes.
that might be more attainable for a few people that I've run into.
Yeah, so this will pertain to manufactured homes. Mind you, there are some additional nuances. I'm trying to find where it says manufactured homes right here. So here's the thing with manufactured homes, right? There's a totally separate list of criteria that you have to abide by in order to be able to buy a manufactured home. Number one, it has to be at least a double wide. Can't be a single wide. It has to be permanently affixed to the ground, right? It has to be on a permanent foundation, right? And affixed to that foundation. It must have been built after July, I want to say July 6, 1977, 76, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in that vicinity. I think it was 76.
76.
76, yeah. There is Matt, help me out here. What am I
Be simple. It cannot be on leased land. You
Thank
have
you.
to own the dirt underneath it, and it could never have been moved. It could be the best looking thing in the world, and you got it first class transported from across the street. It could never have been moved, and you have to own the land underneath it. So a lot of these
on the land.
mobile parks aren't going to qualify because they're on leased land.
And
Okay.
let me explain to you what that thought process is with the banking industry and why they say that. So I used to live in Bay Park, and I use this, I tell this anecdote every single time. I used to live in Bay Park, and down at the very end of Marina, kind of when it butts into the train tracks, there used to be a huge trailer park right there, right? And it was enormous. It was like a couple acres of land. And there were a lot of mobile homes, manufactured homes that were there. Both, right? And so these manufactured homes, these people are leasing their land from the landlord, who eventually decided to sell his land to the developers. Well, guess what? These folks got 90 days to move out. And when the bulldozers came through, for those that didn't, they literally just leveled the homes that were there and got rid of them. So why would a bank want to lend on land that doesn't belong to you, knowing that at some point in the future, it could get just destroyed, right? It could get removed forcefully. So granted, there are really beautiful townhomes there and condominiums that they built, but the people that lived there before, they're homeless at this point, or they had to move their manufactured home somewhere, and they wouldn't have been able to get financing elsewhere now because it was moved. I mean, so if that, hopefully that makes sense, right, Amy?
Yeah, it definitely does. So if we're looking at a first-time home buyer trying to get a manufactured home, they would literally be looking at a place that's already been established, and they'd be buying the land and the place because they can't buy the land separate and then ask for purchase of a manufactured home. Do you know what I mean? Like like buying the land separate and the manufactured home separate, right? Like buy the land and then the home to go on the land. That wouldn't qualify because it's not already sitting there.
Right, it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Most
you.
manufactured homes in San Diego are leased land. There's very
Yes.
few that are, you can actually purchase a land. So if you're looking up manufactured homes and you see, a fee for land, you can automatically just move on. You can't
Okay.
get financing there.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Although, I mean, you can
You
sell and buy a place there.
Yeah.
There's
Mhm.
there's an agent in our office who just closed the deal in a land lease situation on Vulcan Avenue up in Encinitas. And we all know what's going to happen to that place on Vulcan and Encinitas. That, if it's not tomorrow, there's going to come a time where a developer puts a price on it. because that land is just worth so much right there. And so same situation in Bay Park. They're going to come along and move those folks out, but you can still buy and sell there. We just can't lend there.
Got it. Thank you.
True story. You may be able to find a credit union that would take that risk, but they're
I know a place. If you guys need help with manufactured home, give me a call.
yeah, they're few and far between. But we will definitely do whatever we can to help you guys out, even if we're not doing a loan. So feel free to come and hit us up. We just can't do it. It's not a traditional type of loan. It's nothing that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, none of the big developers are gonna. Excuse me, the none of the big lending agencies are gonna touch. So just yeah, but still ask us, and we'll point you in the right direction if we can help out for sure.
Cool.
Great question. Sorry for the tangent, but great question. Cool. Anything else, you guys? Any other questions? No? All right. Moving right along, Golden State Finance Authority, right? So there used to be quite a few programs, and they used to be the primary one that were out there for our police, our fire, our nurses, our doctors and so forth, and they've done away with that program. At this point, they've got their platinum program. This is where we go for down payment assistance when you're not a first-time home buyer, which is nice because we have that option, right? You don't have to be a first-time home buyer. You can get up to 5.5% in down payment assistance, and it can be used for down payment and closing costs, right? And they do allow up to 50% under certain circumstances in debt to income ratios, and you can get a 1 to 4 unit residence with this as opposed to the CalHFA, which is only a single unit, right? And they're a little bit more flexible with their income limits as well. So looking at some of the specifics, you can go all the way down to a 640 with these guys. The other ones, remember, was a 680, 660 with low income, 640 here. If you're looking at a manufactured home, 660 and above. Your debt to income ratios, again, these are like the top limits for conventional and government loans. So 97%, 96.5% for FHA. And your limits, though, are rather limited as far as purchase prices here. Whereas with CalHFA, you can go up to the high balance limit, which is $1,600,200 here, or is it 550? I always get them back, right? Here you can only go to $766,550. So, but the income limits are a little bit higher here as well. And the ratios are a little bit higher as well, also. So you can all the way up down to 680, whereas the other one was 700. You can go up to 50%. And then 640 to 680 is limited to 45%. Again, FHA, VA, USDA, they're all 30-year loans, and it is owner occupied. You can't have a non-borrow, like a co-signer on here. But you can have a co-borrower on here. So there is a little bit slight difference as to accepting liabilities. You can have a non-occupant co-borrower. So say your mom wants to go on the loan and help her son buy a property, you can do that using this program. Single family, but again, you still have to fall into all the income qualifications. So now you're adding 2 incomes together, right? Single family units, ADUs, condos, manufactured homes, multi-units are permitted, whereas with the other program, it's not. But you still have to take a first-time home buyer's education. Only one person has to take it. And then mortgage insurance is also a little bit better with this program than it is with the other ones as well. They do have this Golden Opportunities program. And again, this one is not limited to first-time home buyers, and you can go as high as 55% on your debt to income ratios, which is a little bit better. And let's see here, jumping in, right? Same, very similar limits. Credit scores are a little bit lower, right? To help out people that don't exactly have the best of credit. But depending on the type of program, you can get up to 7% of assistance for conventional loans and 6.5% for FHA and VA loans, and USDA loans. This is just a silent second loan that sits there, and you have to repay it basically when you refinance or you sell the home. All right. Again, it's not something that if someone just asks me, hey, do I qualify for first-time homebuyer programs? I've got to evaluate their finances to be able to tell them these are the boxes that you can fit into. These are the ones that you can't, right? Debt to income ratios, they are rather limited for you have for manual underwrites. And what's a manual underwrite? It's when we put our files through the automated underwriting system. It's basically when it doesn't give us a response right off the bat that is an approve eligible, right? It says eligible, but it says, it'll give us an ineligible, excuse me. It's a accept ineligible. So that means that an actual human being underwriter is going to have to review that file and make sure that everything is kosher. So that is going to be limited for your debt to income ratios down to 41%. Which is quite low, especially if you have income limits on programs like this as well. San Diego Housing Authority, you guys. So this is our local one. This is the city of San Diego. Definitely helps out quite a bit. They'll actually lend up to 22% on a purchase program, which will help you obviously eliminate your need for mortgage insurance. And again, very, very, very hard to qualify for because take a look, right? So the deferred down payment, sorry, is 25% here. You can get a grant for your closing costs up to 4%, again, not to exceed $10,000. And you have up to a 97% loan to value. Your attached properties so condos are 603 is a limit. And here's a detached house is $1,030,000. Here's the thing, you guys, these numbers don't add up. So it has, for the ones that are under 80% AMI, right, of 77,000 if a single person is applying for this, right? You can't qualify for $1 million loan at 7% interest, making this kind of money. So it makes it very, very difficult to be able to actually get these loans. Your 640, and they're very tiny little boxes, and they're meant to eliminate most borrowers. So, and then moving on, right, you'll see that not only are the income limits kind of not congruent with those loan limits, and being able to actually find something in that area, but you also are limited to a 45% debt ratio, and that housing expense has to be at least 30% of your overall debt. So I'm telling you guys, it is such a hard program to qualify for. Have I seen people get this program? Yes. Have I been fortunate enough to help somebody get this program? Not in the almost 10 years I've been doing it. So it's there, it exists. If you can find a condo or a house that is very low priced for someone that doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of money, then yes, you can apply for this program. We can apply for this program, but it is very hard to fit into that box, y'all. So the loan types, some of these different programs, you have the 17% down payment assistance. This is for the deferred payment. And then again, up to closing costs for another $10,000. This is within the county of San Diego, not just the city of San Diego. All right. Again, the same exact loan limits here, the same AMI in San Diego County, same credit scores that we have to abide by, but good luck trying to find a house where someone's going to qualify if you're making, I mean, even if a family of, a couple that's making $83,000. I gotta fix this 4,100, but $83,000. I mean, you can't buy a condo for $83,000. It's if you can, but it's gonna be like sub 400. But these programs do exist, just so you guys know. All right, so purchase price, simple interest. They basically just accrue, and then whenever you do refinance or you do sell the home, you will have to wind up paying that back. In addition to the down payment that you took out from them. Very similar qualifications up to 45%. You can use a condo, you can buy a PUD, you can buy a townhouse, single family only with these programs. And yes, everybody has to be, take a home buyer education course. Once again, you have to land somewhere but at least 30% with your gross monthly income is just for the housing expense, which is quite a bit. It's quite high. The city of Chula Vista has a similar program. They haven't updated their loan limits in quite some time, so hopefully that will be done soon, but again, up to 22% in down payment assistance. And that is broken up into down payment plus closing costs. And again, similar AMIs, similar credit scores for the city of Chula Vista. Again, all very similar concepts, simple deferred interest over 30 years. You don't have to make any payments on that money. And then when you refinance or you sell your home, you're going to have to sell it. There are no owner occupied, non-owner occupants allowed for these programs. And it is only for owner occupied purchases, right? And then again, City of El Cajon, this is all falling under the scope of the San Diego Housing Commission, okay? So they have a very similar program, up to 22%. That number can't exceed $150,000, and it's good for a loan to value of 97%. So at the very minimum, a 3% contribution is required. So you would have to come up with some money with this particular program, and their loan limits are even less. So yeah, it's going to be tough to find properties that fall into these categories, right? And again, with the debt to income and the property requirements and so forth, similar to the other cities, similar to the county, 45% and 30-year fixed 3% rate. It's all deferred until you wind up selling or refinancing. So in a nutshell, that is everything that I've got for you guys for down payment assistance programs, y'all. Questions?
I have a question. So when someone says, well, what about seller financing?
Mhm.
So how does that work?
So
Yeah,
I
how's that
own
work?
I own a condo downtown and I want to sell it, right? And somebody can't qualify for it. Well, I will let you pay me. We have to write a promissory note, just like you write with a bank. I would write it as a seller. You are purchasing this property for $750,000. This is going to be a 5, 6, 7% interest rate. Your monthly payments are X, and so on and so forth. And like the first payment is due at the first of the month, you're late after the 15th, you gotta pay, $150 late fee if you're ever late. I can foreclose on you and so forth and so on. So in that, essentially, I'm adding you to the title as a buyer, but I'm still holding on to the title myself. Now we just become tenants in common. And if for whatever reason, you wind up breaking any rules of that promissory note, just like you would in buying a home, and you have the bank financing it, I'm just keeping that my own note, and you're paying me and I'm paying my bank.
Oh, okay. So
That
you're
makes sense?
pretty much acting like the bank. Okay.
I would, yeah, but think about it, right? So I'm selling my condo for $750,000. There's a note for 360, right? You're gonna have to put a pretty substantial down payment down, right? In order to be able to do that, in order to be able to qualify for it. I'm still gonna review your qualifications. Like any seller that decides to do seller financing, it would behoove them to have a loan officer check the qualifications of that buyer,
Okay.
right? I still want to make sure that person can afford that property and have the
Okay.
ability to repay.
That's good to know. Okay.
But
So
that's
kind
how
of
it works.
to piggyback off of that,
Yeah.
if it says something like seller financing, but up to a certain amount, does that mean that the buyer has to be like they come up with their own loan, so they'd have two loans, or are they have to have that out of pocket
Cash.
already?
Cash.
Okay,
That
got
is-
it.
Yeah, there's no bank is gonna piggyback on seller financing.
Okay, gotcha.
That's another thing, is like you're never gonna be able to get a HELOC or anything like that.
Yeah.
At some point in the future, you could refinance it because you are an owner, but yeah. I mean, it's a great way to go if you if you can swing it, and if you can find somebody that's willing to take a lower and give you a lower rate just to sell it, they gotta be desperate though.
Okay, thanks. And then I had another situation just come up this morning.
Yeah.
So somebody in Tierra Santa area is looking to have a someone buy a portion of their condo. So they're like 10 tenants in common.
Mhm.
Is that something that loans would be willing to look at, or do they have to buy the whole property?
You'd have to refinance with two people on there.
All right.
Yeah,
Just wanna-
you can add a second person to that finance, or they can come in with cash. Or they can go get their own loan somewhere else, but no bank is gonna loan on that property, if somebody else owns it. Unless you refinance it and just have both people get on the same loan.
Okay, that's helpful. All right,
Mhm.
thank you.
But keep in mind too, that whoever owns it probably had, depending on when they bought it, might have a really low interest rate. So why would they want to refinance?
True. Okay.
So you just gotta look at seeing when they bought it, and you can pull all that documentation up on a title website. And you can just take a look and see what their most recent mortgages that they took out. And see what, and look at the terms.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, are you guys familiar with title websites? Have you guys ever used them before?
Not exactly, no.
No? Okay. So I know that Greg Ives is gonna be having a class here in a couple of weeks. I'm gonna be going to it. It's right down the street from our new office, and he's gonna be teaching about it. He's a First American title. So I would strongly recommend, if you guys have never been to it, he's teaching about how to read prelims. And he's a really smart dude. I love to learn new stuff all the time. I've been doing this a decade, but I can always learn something new. And I don't really review prelims all that often, so I would love to have, someone that does it every day, get their insight, and kind of look for any kind of nuances and what have you on them, and like potential pitfalls to look out for. So, I would strongly recommend signing up for that class. And if you guys don't have the information on it, I can go ahead and post it on our Facebook page, and you guys can reach out to them.
I just did one. Deborah had someone at First American to do one.
Oh,
how to
yeah.
read a
Audrey.
prelim. It
Yeah.
was like last week, I think it was.
Oh, did
Yeah.
you go?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Audrey Means. So she's on Greg's team.
Okay, yeah, that's who she did. Yeah, that was
She's
her.
an angel and a sweetheart. I love Audrey. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Audrey was the one who just taught it.
They're a great team. If you guys ever need a title company to go to, yeah, highly recommended.
So you're saying we could use their resource, their website, or I'm assuming.
Yes, you have to
some
get in
type of-
touch with them and ask them for a login. Get in touch with Audrey or Greg, or Crystal Bonadetto, I
If
think.
you email Audrey, she'll hook you up in like an hour.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she'll hook you up. Just tell her with Keller Williams Metro, and she'll get you a login.
Jacqueline, did you have any questions?
I did have one. I was confused. All right, so I always thought that when there was a VA loan, there was no down payment, but I saw it come up in the down payment assistance programs, and I was confused as to why.
There always is closing costs.
Oh, the closing cost it covers. Okay,
Yep.
I see. That was
And
it.
I have had veterans put money down.
Okay.
I mean, ones that have, for instance, if they have their funding fee waived, because that's the kicker with the VA, right? So like if you're using it, especially for a subsequent purchase, you're
Mhm.
talking about what, 3.3%? I mean, it's a significant amount of money when you're buying an $800,000 home. 3.3%, I mean, that's upwards of $26,000 that you're tacking onto that loan. Well, some veterans have that waived, right?
Mhm.
Anyone that receives disability will have that waived. So if they have that waived, then it could help them out in putting down payment. I mean, if they want to just be more comfortable with the payment, they can lower it, and they're gonna get a lower interest rate with a VA loan anyways.
Mhm.
So I mean, I've seen plenty of veterans put money down.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I didn't realize that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question.
Actually, I had actually a question around the lottery one that you started off with.
Yeah,
I know that the lottery is now closed, which means like we won't be able to qualify anyone. Do you know if they're going to redo it or if they're going to reopen it at some point
good
in the next
question.
few months or something?
So it's an annual thing. They did it last year, towards
Yeah.
the end of last year. They did it again this year. So if it comes around again, it'll be next year sometime. And
Probably January.
it
February,
just
so.
depends on the funding in California.
Makes
So
sense.
that's a, a
So it's a
political,
catch-22. It may or may not show up. We don't know.
yeah, that's a political question. I wouldn't be able to answer.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah. Good question.
Well, and if not next year, you would think with the money that they're going to recoup with this program, when people refinance, sell, or what have you, when they pay back, right?
So you would think
the pool's going to get refilled. Is
Yeah.
it going to be next year? Is it going to be 2 years from now? Who knows?
Yeah.
Or is there going to be more funds allocated to this program because it went so well?
And that's a great that's a great point. I mean, and that's kind of the concept, is to start the ball rolling and continue this into perpetuity, right? Based off of the proceeds that they're making, and be able to keep rolling it over year after year. So mind you, they did like 200 million or something like that, 250 million the first time around. They did like almost 300 million this time around, and it goes pretty quickly. It's not a whole heck of a lot of money. I think it's supposed to help like around 2,000 families.
It was 2,200 last time.
22, yeah. So I mean,
Well, it's a tough one because I know, for example, I know that loan can also be rolled over to your children if you don't sell your house as well. So that we can also wait for a long time. I know.
you could. Potentially. So it
So
just
that
depends
might
on
be
the state
way down the
funding.
road.
But you got to keep in mind you're stuck with that interest rate for the lifetime of that loan too. So if you see interest rates go lower, then I think at the end of it they were like 7.25, right?
Mhm.
You're going to see, if you see interest rates in the 5s, you're gonna have
If you
that
refinance, you have to
struggle in your
pay
mind.
back
Do I
everything.
need to refinance and save money monthly and get out of this? You're gonna have to really weigh some options at that point.
Say, do you have to repay it if you refinance?
Absolutely.
You get one free refi,
You get
Oh,
one.
right.
just on the first, yeah.
Good. That's good to remember that for as well if it ever comes back as well.
Yeah. If they're holding it, it would be good to save that.
Yeah, I mean, they realize that we're at, historically pretty high levels at this point. So they allow it for one refi.
Perfect.
Cool, great questions, you guys. Fire away. What do we got? Monday morning, come on. Anything else?
I have a kind of not related completely question. Is that okay?
Bring it on. We're here to mastermind together.
All right, so the listing person wants to sell the house as is. And they believe that there will not be any inspection. But from what I'm understanding from just sitting in these calls is that there might still be an inspection depending on the lender. Am I correct?
What do you mean by there won't be an inspection? What kind of
You
inspection?
mean appraisal?
Appraisal or?
No, just inspecting the house
I mean,
for,
that-
any whatever faults or whatever.
yeah, so.
And termite.
Right. So, I mean, if I'm buying a house, I'm always going to want to get that house inspected to make sure that it's not falling apart. Right.
Yeah.
And to find out any kind of potential issues in advance before buying it. It's kind of like buying a used car. You kind of want to have it like taken a look at by your own mechanic. Right.
Right.
So yeah, that's something part of the negotiation.
Okay, but it's not mandatory for getting a loan.
Inspection, no. Appraisal, more than likely.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but that inspection I would strongly advise. So for instance,
did
if you're
too,
making
yeah.
an offer on a property, you could always waive the inspection and still ask them to do inspections, but just understand that you can't get out of that offer based off of the results of that inspection.
Got it. Thank you.
So you can go both ways. You can waive inspection contingencies and still do your inspections just for your own personal knowledge. If you love the house, you love the neighborhood, you've been waiting to get into this neighborhood, like I don't care what it takes. This house finally popped up for sale. Houses don't turn over that often here. Like I'm buying it. Then you just kind of want to know for your own well-being, like what's up with this house? What can I expect?
And also for everyone's protection down the line,
mm,
I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, that
Anyway,
way, you know,
yeah.
once you buy it and once you get
Right.
in, like what you gotta work
Yeah.
on. Do I need to do termite stuff? Is there mold? Is there, you know, unforeseen things that you can't see unless you go underneath the house or in the attic or in the crawl spaces, kind of thing.
Okay,
You know, up
Okay.
on the roof and stuff like that.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Good question. Cool, y'all. Well, thank you. If there's no other questions, I hope you guys have an awesome week. We'll be here all week long, so come visit us in the new office, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah,
Have
give us a
great
shout.
week.
You need anything, we're here.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
See you
Have a
guys.
great week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.